Hello, and welcome to It's a Women's World. I'm your host, Irina Dubinskaya. Our show spotlights powerful women that dare to make a difference. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Carol Swain. I met her yesterday at the social function, and I was highly impressed by her beauty, intelligence, and how she presented herself. I even didn't know she's the mayor candidate, the candidate for the mayor of city of Nashville. I just thought she would be a great asset to my show. Hey, Carol.
Thank you so much.
And I know it's a stressful day for you. Tomorrow there is election day. I just thought the people don't know what women you are, what kind of person is behind a public figure. I did my homework. I read about you. And I just want to hear your story. How you became coming from nowhere to become a public figure and hoping to win tomorrow's election.
Well, first of all, I was born and raised in rural Virginia, in a town called Chambersburg. I was one of 12 children, and it was the kind of poverty that, for part of my life, 9 of us lived in a 2-room shack. The children at first slept on the kitchen floor, and then later 2 additional rooms were built. And so my mother and stepfather had their room, the children had a room, and then there was a bed for the girls and a bed for the boys. And the house had no indoor plumbing, so no bathroom in the house, no water. You couldn't go to the faucet and turn on water. We had to carry our water in a bucket from a spring, and then to bathe we heated it on the stove. And the poverty was such that we did not have boots or snowshoes, and so when it snowed during the winter, we stayed at home. We did not go to school. We stayed at home till the snow melted enough that you could walk, without snow getting in your shoes. There was one bad winter that we missed 80 of 180 days, and everyone failed. And I was second from the oldest, and so there were like 3 girls that were the oldest, and so I was number 2, and so that meant that there were always children around in diapers. And because of the poverty and a number of other things, I married at 16. I had my first child at 17. And by the time I was 20, I had 3 small children. And I can remember walking around with one child strapped to my chest, one on my back, and one by the hand, because I couldn't drive then. And so I'd have to walk to the store that way. And so it was that kind of poverty. But I can also tell you that as a child, I always had a sense that there was something I was supposed to do. And now that I'm a devout Christian believer, I would call that the sense of the call. There was something in me that always made me be serious, and I was just different, and I just felt that that was something I was supposed to do. And when I was in my early 20s and I was in a bad marriage, I was kind of miserable, very depressed. I went through a period when I would take bottles of pills, and then I would call someone, and of course I'd get rescued, which is a terribly dangerous, desperate thing to do, because you never know when you don't get rescued. But I did, and at one of those encounters, I met a medical doctor who told me that I was intelligent, I was attractive, I could do more of my life, and I actually had forgotten that there was a time in my life when I was smart. And his words made me think differently about myself, and I got my high school equivalency. And then later, I was working in a nursing home. I worked in nursing homes for the elderly, a garment factory where we were sewing uniforms, and I'm just not so good at some things. And so I only made production one time. During this time that I was working in the garment factory, I sold things from door to door. I worked in fast food for half a day. And so I've had a number of different jobs.
Wow. And how did it happen? What actually motivated you to get from your GED to PhD. You have 4 or 5 degrees.
5 degrees.
5 degrees, and you actually graduated with magna cum laude, BA in criminal justice.
Yeah, but you didn't say what motivated me. All right, for part of my time I was in a bad marriage, and I was actually at one point, I've been married twice. I was in 2 bad marriages, but I was just looking to get a job that I would be able to earn enough money that I didn't have to be dependent on a man's income. And that particular situation, I can remember, being physically abused, but thinking that I couldn't afford to leave. And so I went to school just to get a job, and my talent is art. I wanted to be a commercial artist, and so the counselor said, be practical. You won't be able to make a living. And so I chose business and got my first degree in business. And I was a work study student at the community college. And because I was dependable, and when their regular employees didn't show up, they created a full-time job for me, 40 hours a week, nights and weekends. And so when I graduated with my 2-year degree, I applied for jobs in business. I thought I was going to be a store manager. And when I applied for jobs, I kept being told I needed a 4-year degree. And so, I didn't love math. I did not love math. I went through the college catalog and I looked at all the fields that had the least amount of math, and that's how I became a criminal justice major. It was interdisciplinary field with psychology, political science, philosophy. You had to do some English and math, but it had the least amount of math. And I kept the job at the community college library nights and weekends, and I went to school full time. So I was going to school full course load, working 40 hours a week, nights and weekends, and I could take my children to work when I needed to because no one used the library. So I was an honest student. I graduated magna cum laude, but God set it up in such a way that I was a circulation library assistant at night and on the weekends. And I'm afraid to report that not many people, not afraid to report, but will report that not many people use the library nights and weekends, and so I was able to do my homework.
And from there to Princeton,
Yeah.
Yale, and Vanderbilt.
Well, let me tell you what happened. So I get my degree in criminal justice. By the time I was graduating, I knew that I did not want a law enforcement career. I decided that I would probably work for the government, and I'd get a master's in public administration. And, I was always interested in power relationships. I guess because of where I come from, I had never had power myself, but I wanted to study it. And so political science, the study of government, that seemed natural. So I was getting my master's in political science, but I was also applying for jobs. And I thought I'd work as a public administrator. I applied for jobs. I liked marketing too. Since I had a business degree, I applied for jobs with the Norfolk and Southern Railroad, my dream job. Those jobs were not coming through. It was the recession of the 80s. My professors were urging me to get a PhD, go into a PhD program. They said that there's this critical shortage of minority professors and you ought to become one. I had a crippling shyness, and I had it up until probably 2000. Even as a professor, I was very, very shy. I would try to write down everything I was going to say. And so being a professor is not a logical choice for someone who's shy. But the jobs weren't coming through. My professors were urging me to get a PhD, and I started giving conference papers with professors, traveling around the country. So by the time I was finishing my PhD at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, I was known around the country because I went to conferences. And so I had a number of institutions say that when you're on the job market, let us know. And so when I was on the job market as a political scientist, I was like the hot commodity of my year. I had many offers, many job interviews. At some point, I just took myself off the job market, and I had my own short list. I got maybe 6 or 7 job offers, and I ended up taking a job at Princeton, and I got early tenure there. And tenure is something that only 1 in 5 get. I went up in my 3rd year, and it was awarded in the 4th year instead of the 7th year. I won 3 national prizes. My work has been cited by the Supreme Court. And I can tell you that when I got my tenure, and I had a goal that I had reached, I was totally disillusioned, and none of those awards and being the hot shot, it brought me no happiness. And so I went on the spiritual journey that took me through New Age and Eastern religions, and it came full circle, this journey, in 1999. And this was after Vanderbilt had hired me. I didn't come right away. Instead of coming right away, I went to New Haven, where I got another degree in law at Yale. And while I was in New Haven, I became a devout Christian believer. And so Vanderbilt hired me in 1998. When I showed up very different. And if I can tell, your viewers, I never saw that I would be a university professor. It's not something as a child I ever thought I would do. It's not something I'm naturally suited to do because I was so shy. And then running for office is nothing that I ever thought I would do. Like, I've studied government and politics now I've taught for 28 years. I've studied it for much longer. I thought my role in life was to hold politicians accountable, make them live up to what they said, and to expose them and all this thing. I did not see that I would ever myself serve in an elective office, and then if I were to serve, I would have assumed it would be the Senate, not even the House, and but I did not have any desire to serve in office. But I've always written books and tried to urge people to get involved, make your voice heard. It's we the people, and I talk about the preamble of the Constitution. And so I've been trying to motivate the public for the last, probably since 2010, was when I really started reaching out to the public. How I became a candidate for mayor is almost like I reached the point that I had to practice what I preached. And so, like, if no one else was standing up and people were urging me to stand up, it just became clear that it was time for me to step into the arena. I never want to be a politician. I want to be an effective leader. I want to be a stateswoman. I never want to be comfortable as a politician. And so tomorrow, when the election is over, I don't care whether I win or lose, because I don't have this innate desire to be a politician. If God wants me to be the next mayor of Nashville, then I'll be the next mayor of Nashville, and I'll do everything I can to be the best mayor that our city's ever had.
Well, thank you. I'm very proud that I have met you yesterday, because you just impressed me so much, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you. And I checked it out. You've been written for New York Times and Wall Street Journal and the Huntington Post. So
Washington Post, Washington Times, the Financial Times, Global. Something, the most important thing about me is my faith. As a person that came from the kind of poverty I came from, first generation college student, to have the influence I have today, the platform I have today, I don't feel like that is something that an individual can make happen. I do very much believe that there's a God. He orders our footsteps, and that He has made all this happen. And like the team I have, the website I have, and all of the things that have come together, it's like David against Goliath. Acting Mayor David Briley, he raised $720,000 when he did his report. I raised $115,000 when I did my report. He's outspent us like 6-1. Yet we are in a good position to win tomorrow, to win it outright and not just be in a runoff. And that's my desire.
Very good. And as I told, I'm not in politics. I just wanted to meet with you, with the woman who made a difference. But as a Nashville citizen, I still have few areas of concern.
Okay.
And I know you're tired. I just want you to cover it really, really fast.
Okay.
So the first thing, traffic in downtown, especially on weekends.
Yes.
And it would be maybe just no traffic on Broadway from the river to the 6. It will help in a lot. Another thing is affordable housing and the pre-K to 12 education, because basically if you want to give your child education, it's private school or magnet school.
Or homeschooling. The homeschooling parents do a great job.
Yes, but not if you're single, full-time,
Right.
working mother.
Yeah, but
Right.
I mean, the parents that get the best outcomes, they are supplementing. If their kids are in public school, you have to supplement it somehow. And, like a lot of families today, the grandparents don't live close to the parents, and it's the same situation with my own grandchildren. But you have to supplement their education. So let me tell you very quickly, I have a short-term and long-term approach to dealing with the traffic congestion. Short-term, one of the things the mayor can do almost immediately is go and encourage all the different units and divisions of government to institute flex time, so that all the employees are not trying to get to work, for 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. They can stagger the start of the workday. There are some people that are doing services that they have to be at that window. They have to be seen. But if you're doing data entry, there are certain things that with the technology today that you could log in from home and do your job. We could do more of that. And then when it comes to the regional traffic, people coming in from Franklin, Smyrna, Antioch, Laverne, Goodlettsville, Hendersonville, all of these places where people are coming into Nashville, there could be more use of ride share. And so I'd like to see that encouraged and utilized more. When it comes to, we're stuck in traffic, those 2-lane highways. Some people are going straight, some are turning right, some are turning left. I spoke with a man in Public Works, and he said that there are 50 major intersections in Nashville that they lack turning lanes, and that Public Works could easily put in those turning lanes, and it wouldn't cost a lot of money, and it wouldn't take months, and that would relieve a lot of traffic congestion. And the last thing is that we can improve our bus system. That we have one of the worst bus systems that I've seen, and I've lived in several cities. And something, I don't know how much people have listened to people about why they're not riding the buses. I don't think it's because everyone wants their car, but I think that if it takes you an hour and 30 minutes to go 4 miles, why would you want to be on the bus? Unless you just got a long book you want to read. We can improve the bus service, and those are my short-term approaches. Long-term, I've heard several people talk about alternative plans. Whatever we do, it has to be regional, so we have to get the other cities, and the state, to all be involved in solving the Nashville traffic problem. And maybe we have to stack the interstates so that people that are going straight through, they're not stopping in Nashville, that they don't get caught up in that traffic. Oh, then you talked about affordable housing. There are like 3 areas where the housing is an issue. We have the homeless. We have people who are working and they're like one paycheck away from homelessness because they're not earning enough money to make it in Nashville. And then you have people who can't afford houses. They're working people. We see them every day. They're working in the stores. They're working in the nursing homes. They're doing regular jobs. They're just not making enough money. I've spoken with some developers and contractors who say that they would like to build houses that cost $150,000 or less. And I know the city has lots of land that I believe that if you united the contractors, with the city making the land available, that you could get some of these houses built that people who are working would be able to afford the mortgage and the down payment. And when it comes to the poorest of the poor, those that are on Social Security or maybe they're on welfare and they're just not people that can work, I think that we have to work with HUD to see what they have available. They may have programs that are not Section 8, but programs available, and that's one of the things that I will explore, and I've already made some phone calls to HUD. I was told to go over their website, find programs I thought would help Nashville, and then make an appointment with Secretary Carson. We know that when I'm elected, and I'm believing that I'm going to be elected tomorrow, it's going to make national and international news, and so that I think it won't be hard for me to get entree to Secretary Carson or the president or whomever I need to get access to see what they can do to help me make Nashville work more effectively. When it comes to the education, we spend, it's one of the biggest line items of the budget, over $800 million that goes to the Nashville public schools, and yet we have one of the worst school systems ever. I think that it's not always just throwing money. we need to see how that money is being spent. And we hear, they don't have money to pay teachers. Well, why, I don't know what the budget looks like, where the money is going, that if you're getting that much, you can't pay teachers. I would like to know more about that, but I also would like to know why, with all the money that's being spent, over $10,000 per student, that we're not getting a better outcome. And so there has to be some accountability, like something is broken somewhere. We need to figure out what it is.
Very good. I have a question actually about the affordable housing. Have you heard about tiny houses?
I have. I mean, that's kind of the buzz, and I've had several people approach me. And there are houses that are almost like prefab houses,
No,
but
it's just 400 to 600 square
no, but I'm saying
feet.
that they have people that are manufacturing these houses that they come almost like prefab. We could do more with that, but we have to also identify tracts of land where the people will say, we need to house the homeless, but not in my backyard. And so maybe there's some industrial areas, places where the city owns land, and that if you set up a village for the homeless, hardcore homeless, not the families, because I think that you would have to have a separate kind of place for families. But you need medical care, you need dental care, you need someone in charge so that you don't have a place of total chaos. But yeah, I think that there's more we could do with tiny houses, and there's more that the city can do. And the last thing the homeless need is a high-rise downtown. No one wants, I mean, they don't need to be downtown. They need somewhere they can get services. And I think that we could help build a village that was beautiful in a sense that it wouldn't be concrete, and it would be, trees and stuff like that, and just would be healthy for a person to be at. But there has to be mental health services and for their needs as well as their medical needs.
Yeah, but
And so I'm willing to work with people who are already working with the homeless. And there are a lot of people doing a lot of good things. Like there's so many youth violence programs. I want to find out what all these programs are, what they're doing, and who should be working together. And when it comes to the city giving grants, I want to do that smartly. And I want to see exactly what these programs are doing. And I don't think it's necessarily, we hear all this stuff about the restorative justice, and it sounds great. Restorative is always great. But it can also be like a buzzword if it is letting young people out that are violent, like the man that got killed at Opryland, a young kid got killed at Opryland Mall, probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. There was a shooting at the mall. They both were known to the police, and so they had a grudge against each other, but they both had police records. Like sometimes we think we are helping our kids by not incarcerating them or not keeping them longer, we may be setting them up. How many of those kids who were casualties or who ended up being murderers, how many of them had frequent interactions with the criminal justice system and we didn't do the right thing? There are a lot of places where I would like to bore down and drill down and figure out what we've been doing, and is it working? And if it's not working, why isn't it working? And in some cases, there may be judges that are not making the right decisions for the young people and for the community.
thank you very much. And I know your time is so tight, so you have to promise me we're going to have post-election interview.
Yes, I can tell you that, I don't know what it would be like to be mayor, but I know what I would like for it to be like. And I would like to be a kind of mayor that I would stay connected with the community, and that people could come by the mayor's office, and that it wouldn't be like you see the mayor right before an election, and then the mayor comes and promises you all this stuff, and then the election happens, you never see the mayor. I don't want to be that kind of mayor. I want also that when my term is up, whether it's a 1-year term or 4-year term, that people will know because of the footprints I left behind.
I wish you luck.
Well, thank
I
you.
wish you luck just as a woman which met a beautiful woman and see the beauty of her.
Well, let me thank you for, just setting up the interview and coming back and waiting because I was late and all of that stuff like that. And I would love to stay in contact with you, and I wish you the best with your program. And maybe, I know that when I win, that there will be a lot of interviews, but maybe, that your interview can be, we will interview again.
Yes,
We will
I would
interview
love
again.
it.
Yeah.
I would love it. And that's it for today. I would like to thank Dr. Carol Swain for sharing our inspiring story of bravery and adventures and success. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please schedule it with me at my website, dearirina.com. And this interview was sponsored by GREEN, Global Real Estate Education Network, live interactive real estate education, which work as hard as you do. To check what they have to offer, please visit learnfromgreen.com. Thank you. Ciao.